Marti Roveda,
Hey, Nick.
welcome to the show. If you wouldn't mind
you.
to start, just introduce yourself. Who are you?
I'm a mom of a young man who just celebrated his 5th year of sobriety.
Congratulations. Huge.
Yeah.
That's such a big
I'm
deal.
really proud of him. He's done a lot of great work. I'm just absolutely passionate about sharing what it's like to be a parent of a youth, especially under 18, who's challenged with substance use disorder, and the difficulty of THC, the impact of THC in that situation, high potency THC. So I really speak a lot to that. But I'm grateful to be here, and I'm just passionate about sharing our journey so that others don't walk in deer in the headlights and just, what do I do next? So
Totally.
yeah.
So, how did you learn about Arch Academy? Tell us about that journey of coming to understand what was needed and what was next.
Yeah. So our son began his recovery intensive outpatient experience in Atlanta, and he was in that program, in a program down there for about 9 months. 45 days of that, he was in an intensive inpatient program affiliated with that program in Phoenix.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So, we were on the roller coaster for about 9 months, holding sobriety, letting go of sobriety, relapses, till ultimately he was kicked out of his local program. And through our journey, we were at the point where at barely 17 years old, we had to tell our son, pack a bag and go figure it out, or go to intensive inpatient here at Arch Academy, which was currently at that time, that was 2020. So we dropped him off at Cumberland Heights, and he spent his first few weeks here at Cumberland Heights. But it was pack your bag, go figure it out, or you go to intensive inpatient. And we were very grateful that he chose to come here. And so he came to Cumberland Heights. He was here for a few weeks and then transferred to the amazing campus that they have now. He was there for about 3 months. I don't think if he had not had those 9 months in the previous program, he probably would have been there a lot longer because he was still resistant. But he was there for 3 months. We picked him up in the parking lot because it was still COVID regulations.
I remember well.
Never got to see the community, see the campus until a few years later. But picked him up and got him home. And as of March 13th of this year, he's got 5 years of sobriety.
Yeah. So he's 21, 22?
22.
22.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Talk to me about, I think it's super interesting that your son had experience. First of all, he's an adolescent. Mm-hmm. And addiction treatment for an adolescent can be tricky.
Yep.
Just because we pay a lot more attention to, maybe not a lot more, but it's a different population than the adult population. And we're paying closer attention to developmental milestones. I know Dean Porterfield, the executive director out there, pays really close attention to that and tries to create a milieu for kids to grow into their differentiation, their ability to self-direct their own life and their own recovery. But just from a mom's perspective, you have a 17-year-old. What would you share with other families of how you got to the place that you were giving him a critical choice of, hey, you're either going to move and pack a bag and figure this out as a young adult, or you're going to go to treatment? Because that is, I can't imagine that place.
Yeah. Just a minute, because I feel like I'm going to cry, because it was hard. I mean, my son is my heart outside of my body, still to this day. But it was one of the hardest things I've done in my whole life. It was the 9 months, and it was the 9 months where we had a family group that were supporting us. I had an amazing sponsor who was supporting me and my own parent recovery. I had a tribe of moms that were supporting me. I had the amazing local program, and the counselors there that stood beside us as we made these decisions, and helped us understand that we were doing the right thing for our son by holding our boundaries, by loving him where he was, but understanding that we weren't going to allow him to slowly kill himself by continuing to use.
Tell us about his behavior at the time. So what were you observing that led you to that decision?
Well, the lack of engagement in a program. It was very obvious, and I was watching him. I really started. He had held sobriety after that inpatient program for a period of time, but by the beginning of the year, he came home at Thanksgiving. And by the beginning of that next year of 2020, I was observing the behaviors coming back, lying, not being honest to where he was. He did have a few relapses that we gave him the opportunity to get honest on. We had to have some soft kickouts before the major one, and said, you can't live here, go sleep on your sponsor's sofa, and seemed to be working, but it was just a horrible roller coaster of relapse. And I remember the night, it was, had a Monday night meeting at the local program, and I remember that night, I just felt some kind of peace. And then my phone rings, and I was like, oh, what is this? And it was his counselor saying, yeah, John, he's relapsed, and we're going to have to talk in a few days about what his next steps are. So, and my heart dropped.
Of course.
My husband went and picked him up. They spent about 2 hours in the car with my son, explaining to him how weed is okay, it's natural, and I'm okay, I don't need any help, and but we knew better. We knew. So
you mentioned a phrase that I think is interesting, and we haven't talked much about it on kind of in this platform, but parent recovery. Would you define that? Define and describe it for somebody that might have heard that for the first time.
Parent recovery is a parallel process to our child's recovery. That's why we have Al-Anon, Nar-Anon, those other 12-step programs, so that we can walk our own journey, not exactly parallel to our child, but it helps us speak the same language, because at Arch and at the local program, it was a 12-step program. So it allowed us to speak the same dialogues. We were speaking the same vocabulary. But addiction is a family disease. And we didn't cause it, can't cure it, can't control it, but we can contribute to it. And so working our own 12-step, though I had started that before John came to Arch with our local program, I barely scratched the surface. And it's interesting you ask that, because that's why I'm here today. When we dropped John off at Arch, we had 4 hours to driving home, and my husband and I are like, something's got to change, and it's got to be us. John's got to do his own work. We can't control that. but we have to do our own work. And so we committed to digging in to our parent program, working our 12 steps. I came back with just a passion to work with my sponsor to dig in, to really dig in. I didn't want to do surface work. I wanted to dig in and do my work. We had marriage counselors. We had our own personal counselors. If we weren't working, we were working on us. And so we did that. We did the hard work while he was we were working it as hopefully as hard, if not harder than he was. Probably not. He did a lot of work.
Sure.
But we dug in and we did our work. And so that's what it looks like, is working a 12-step program. And I can tell you, again, one of the reasons I'm here today is because when we got him home, he had been home for about an hour and settled in. And he came to us and he said, "You guys have changed." We didn't want to control him. We weren't going to tell him how he was going to live his life or what his choices were going to be. We were just going to love him and just ask that he work a program and be sober for his mental and physical health. And that's all we wanted for him. And as long as that was in place, everything else would fall into place. So, yeah, so that's why I'm sitting here with you today.
So I hear, what I hear through recovery lens, of course, is a lot of step one and a lot of surrender, which is the spiritual principle, one of them that's embedded within that first step. So for a parent listening, that is a hard process to surrender an outcome and be willing to take action if our loved one chooses a different way of life, right? I mean, that's ultimately what you're talking about. And so I don't want to put words in your mouth, but what I'm hearing you saying is you guys were in meetings, you guys had your own therapists, and you were really doing real step work. So what does that mean? Because I know these are simple questions, but I think they're so valuable to ask is, what does that actually mean for a parent? What does the actual process of step work really look like for you, or has it looked like for you? What does it look like today?
From my understanding and having conversations with John, it's very similar to his. I go to meetings every week, more than one if needed. But my program's my program, his is his.
Yeah.
But I have to keep doing it every day. And what I learned in working my own program is that I had my own disorders that I had to address, my defects, right? And I barely scratched the surface. I'll be working through those every single day of my life. It's not going to change. I needed my own recovery. I needed to heal from my generational issues, my family of origin issues. And by healing through those, I was able to release of some of them and heal every day. But it's still today. I have my meetings. I have to continue to work on me and heal from that, just like John has to do his work. The amazing thing is that we can talk openly and honestly about it. We can share in a loving way and not own each other's stuff.
Yeah. Was there a particular reason why you and your husband gravitated towards or chose a program that identifies itself as participating in 12-step tradition? And I'll release a caveat for anybody listening, because what that doesn't mean is that all the work that happens in our programs is 12-step centered, right? Really what that means is that we celebrate a tradition and a history of 12-step culture, that we believe that participation in a 12-step culture post-treatment and within treatment is such a valuable resource for anybody that chooses our programs or anybody that's struggling with addiction, for them to use to kind of, what I would say is, regain what's been lost. Maybe just a very brief, small definition of recovery. So why a 12-step program?
It was what was used, the tool that was used in the local program. And I had, and since we were accustomed to that, he mainly ended up at Arch because we had two options. It was here or Hazelden in Minnesota. And there's no way I was sending him all the way that far away.
Yeah.
So
We love Hazelden. Super cold.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. But, it was location. It wasn't specifically on the 12 steps part of it.
Sure.
But it definitely, if that wasn't part of it, I probably would have reconsidered because that was part of his toolkit already, and he had already worked through that. So reintroducing some other tool, plus I had in my personal journey found great relief in that. So I felt that was just the right place for him to be and the right tool for him.
So 5 years in, zooming out, what have you noticed that's changed with your son? I mean, you've talked about yourself and your husband and your family, and I can only imagine, just in terms of my own personal experience of being in recovery and my family talking very similar to you, how helpful that is to have the shared experience and shared language, and to be really transparent, shared boundaries, kind of shared understanding of what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. How would you describe his change? From 17 to 22 is such a critical time period for anybody. I got clean and sober at 20, so I can kind of identify with your son in probably a lot of ways, having to grow up. But how would you describe his change process over the last 5 years?
Nothing less than miraculous. And he did it all himself, every step of the way. Our last decision for John was him coming here. It was basically setting that boundary, right? Work a program, stay sober. And when he got home, that was the boundaries. Work a program, stay sober, fill up your time with working, going to school, and being of service. Done. From that point forward, he made all the choices himself. He would turn to IOP. He did another IOP when he got back home. And as soon as IOP was over, it was time for school to start. And he said he wanted to go back to school and finish his senior year, which was online. So luckily that was a very comfortable approach for him. And so he graduated from high school. He had thought about going to school, but he ended up having to have some type of surgery. But he made those decisions. If he wasn't going to school, he was working full time and supporting himself. We always said, you have a place to lay your head and food in the refrigerator. If you choose to work, then you're working and supporting yourself. But if you're going to go to school, we'll help you. And we just set, some parameters around that.
Yeah.
And he took it and ran.
Yeah.
And has 5 years sober. He was working full time. He was a manager at a hardware store about a year ago. And about this time last year, he made the decision that he wanted to be an addiction counselor himself.
Very cool.
Yeah. So he's now an addiction counselor and loves his life. It's just filled with joy. And he's just happy.
I really love what you said. We should write that down, honestly. That was the last decision we made for him. That's a powerful, I have 2 children. They're babies. They're 9 and 6. But the mindset of allowing them to step into their own adulthood and their own autonomy can be really hard, even at that age, of trying to fix, manage, and control our perceived challenges that our children face. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
That's especially kind of just moving to think about where he's been. And I will say this too, there's a lot of families that their loved one don't have the opportunity to experience recovery, which is tragic.
It is, absolutely.
Or families that continue in their own recovery journey and the loved one chooses not to. Mm-hmm. And how challenging that can be. Yeah. I certainly can't imagine. Okay, Marti, let me ask you this. As you talk to parents these days, neighbor calls you or whoever, what do you tell them to look for in a treatment center?
Definitely 12-step. Yeah. I just, that's a really amazing framework.
Yeah.
It's available pretty much anywhere, anytime. So,
in terms of community meetings, yeah.
Yes, yeah. But really, a place that's going to allow them long-term and a longer-term option, because my experience in talking with parents who have put their children into programs, shorter-term programs typically don't suffice. You end up returning to the same behaviors. There's not enough time there. So looking for a place that can keep them for, an extended period of time, at least 90 days at the least, is usually what I encourage parents to do. Other than that, a parent engagement program, absolutely too, right? So hopefully they have something, that can help bring them in and work in collaborating on building those family relationships back up before they return home.
Yeah. That can be tricky too, because there's a difference between family support and a family program. Mm-hmm. In terms of a structured come for a weekend or come for a couple days, learn about the disease of addiction and shared language. Right. And do some work together, maybe some multifamily groups, versus this is sort of an aftercare-led parent, autonomous to the program, connection point for parents to stay connected with one another and to learn from one another. Yes. And to receive hope from one another, receive suggestions from one another. Talk about your role in those groups with Arch Academy.
Yeah. So
I'm leading the witness.
Thank you. So I was so eternally grateful for what Arch Academy had given our family, as well as the local program that we participated in. And they had a very strong parent support group. It wasn't required, but on Thursday nights, we all had a meeting on the same night that the kids had a meeting. And it was life-changing for us. And so I wanted to bring that to Arch Academy. And so I talked with Dean and Cole for a long period of time, maybe for about a year, to really hash out what this was going to look like. And a few years ago, they gave me the green light and said, let's figure it out. Let's do it. And so in January of 2022, I believe, I hosted my first Zoom meeting for parents whose children were in Arch. And then we've gone from there. And we've grown the programming. It was just every other Monday night. It's now every Monday night. We have, I've helped parents start their first 3 steps. So working with them, steps 1 through 3, if that's what they want to do. So I've offered that for a 3-month period, or however long it took. We have a Saturday morning meeting, and it's just kind of an open dialogue of parents dealing with challenges, and it's not based on a topic. It's just, I'm struggling with this. Can a veteran parent help me? So we've been doing that. In place of that right now, we're doing a book club on the parallel process by Chrissy Pozitak, which was a great resource that I had used in my recovery. And in the last year or so, I've added a steering committee of parents to help drive the programming and to lead meetings. So it's not the Marti show. It's now the Arch Parent Tribe, and I'm just part of the tribe. And there's some amazing parents that are leading it and help driving the programming and being of support to the other parents. And we started out, I think, with like 4 parents. We have 8 on our super private Facebook group. We have 80, almost 90 parents on that. We have an average attendance of approximately 10 to 15 parents every meeting. And these are parents whose kids have left, and parents who are current. We try to get parents involved as quickly as possible to start their healing process as soon as possible.
Well, I want to give you a lot of credit because, I work here, I have a bias, I went to treatment here. I think you knew that.
Mm-hmm.
I think our programs are amazing and life-changing, and I'm so proud of what the transformation that Arch has gone through. A little bit more history. I love history, but, we started treating adolescents here in 1985 on our River Road adult campus, but it wasn't, and we did great work, but it wasn't until the transformation for that program more recently took place in 2020, because we opened that campus actually April 1st of 2020, which there was a lot going on in that time period, if we all remember. But when that happened, it allowed that program to grow a new set of legs. Everything changed. But the thing I'll call out is just the length of engagement, where instead of kids maybe participating in a more standard adult 28 to 35 day residential experience, we were inviting kids to stay for 6 months, just depending on where they were, and then drop down to lower levels of care. But you and your parent group has, unpaid volunteers have, without y'all, Arch Academy wouldn't be the same.
Oh, thank you.
And I think Dean and the whole team, Laura, and everybody out there shares that sentiment, because that piece, at least in this time period, wasn't present. And it took a passionate, patient, persistent parent like you that created sort of this space for other parents to come and ask just any question. Be careful with my language, the crazy questions, or the confusing questions, just to have that place where they could be with their own peers. And if we didn't have that, it would be a disservice. So I like that you said it's an important part of making a treatment decision. Like, is there something available? Is there other people that you can talk to? Because for anybody in any family that's struggling with addiction, it's super important. So thank you so much, because all the way from Georgia, you have maintained this for the half a decade now, and we just simply wouldn't be where we are without you.
No, thank you. It's just a passion, and I just want to pay it forward to others, because it changed my life. It changed our family, and I just want other families to have that peace, joy, and serenity.
Yeah. So I want to hear about what you're doing now, because I learned something new when you were here. You were meeting with the technology team near my office, and I was like, does she know Chris, who's one of our generalists here? And you told me that you're now a contractor.
Yes.
You're now on staff. And I see, do you have your lanyard?
No, I don't have
Okay.
I don't have an ID yet.
Okay.
Maybe next trip.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, what are you doing now? Tell me that, because I have no idea.
Yeah. So, founding the Parent Tribe, my passion just grew for parent coaching and helping parents find themselves out of that hole. So my passion just grew, and I found myself just spending a lot of time talking to parents, a lot of time on the phone, adding extra Zoom meetings here and there.
Here. I've seen you several times.
Volunteering here.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm just so passionate about it. And I'm just like, that's what I want to do. That's what I want to do with my life from now on. I've had multiple careers in urban revitalization, and most recently, the past 10 years, I've been in corporate strategic sourcing. But I was just like, it's time for me to fill my cup on a regular basis and doing this work. And if it flies, great. Otherwise, hopefully I can just help some parents.
Yeah.
So I decided to become a parent coach and start my own parent coaching company, and received my certified parent specialist or peer specialist parent from the state of Georgia. So I applied for that, and working very close to getting my credentialing as a certified parent coach through an organization. And started Equanimity Parent Coaching, and I offer working through a program. It's not a 12-step program, but it is a 12-week parent coaching program to help parents. It aligns very closely to 12-step. It's all about peeling back the layers of who we are and understanding what makes us tick, so we can be better parents for our youth, whether they're challenged with substances or neurodivergence, just helping parents figure out what makes them tick and how they can respond in a more positive manner.
So it's a 12-week program?
I offer a 12-week program, or just online, or just coaching sessions if they're struggling. And then I'm also offering, if there's other organizations that are similar to Arch Academy that would be interested in creating their own type of ground roots parent support group.
How do people get in contact with you if they're curious?
Marti at parentcoaching.com.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. Where do you hope that this goes? What are you hoping to accomplish?
Healing. Serenity for parents. Yeah. This is not about making it a huge corporate, it's just, it's a passion project.
Yeah.
It's just getting the word out there and helping parents and letting them know that they're not alone.
Do you think that parents of adolescents who are experiencing addiction, I was just curious to your thoughts, like, what are the similarities with those people? Like, so we know their kids share similar problems: addiction, comorbidities, neurodivergence of some kind, which we probably all have a little bit. What would you say, do the parents have common problems and issues, and what would those be?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, over and above, like an inability to surrender, over and above kind of getting out of the way, and then being willing for their child to fail. Because that would be the most difficult thing for me, is letting my child fail.
Yeah. It's interesting you bring that up, because it comes up quite a bit. Part of what I'm doing with Arch Academy is that I come to the family day, day 2 of the family day, and I share our journey. And when I'm done, the parents are sitting there going, "That's us. Yep, that's my kid. That's my kid. Yep,
right.
Yep." And when I meet with parents, we all are very similar. We're type A parents, right? We are the type A's. We're the doers. We're the number one momagers. From a mom perspective, we are, we're excellent employees. We strive in our roles. We're high performers, and we drive that. We drive it for our kids, right? We clear the path for them to have everything that we never had. And is it a bad way to be? Absolutely not. That's just, we just are loving our kids, but loving them to death, right? And so, it's, and, in some areas, it could be that we're wanting them to live our unlived lives.
Of course.
Right? And there's nothing wrong with that. We're not bad people at all. No. We love our kids. And when our kids are in program, that's just another example of how much we love our kids. We're getting them the help that they need.
Yeah.
But we have to let go and get the help that we need.
That's what I was going to kind of highlight, like, for any parent, like, what we're not saying is that parents caused addiction.
Absolutely not.
Because there's a lot of, I love that word too, and the second one today, momager. Because there's a lot of momagers, there's a lot of parents that are involved and love to clear the way and assist and, help our loved ones, even if it's not your child, helping your brother, your wife, whoever it is, succeed, be happy, joyous, and free, be a healthy, productive member of society, and whatever that means for them. And many of those individuals don't experience addiction. So I don't think you or I has any explanation as to why certain kids and certain people experience addiction under those same of and others don't. But it is interesting that you call that out as just a common factor, of families, in particular with adolescents. And I hear that a lot from our clinicians too, of just sometimes having to direct families to cool it. When the treatment process begins, of like, hey, your son, your daughter, they are safe. We have them. This is when you should expect to hear from us. This is what we're going to need from you. And luckily, I'm not an active clinician on those teams, because I can imagine that to be such a challenge with folks who might be frustrated by that.
Yes, absolutely. That's
know what I mean?
Oh, I do. We hear it on a regular basis on our Saturday morning meetings. I was told, I can't talk to my kid for 10 days.
Right.
It's okay. They're in a safe place.
Right.
They're getting the love and the support that they need. And they're okay.
Yeah.
And you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's hard. We are there. We wake them up. We clear the path for them, right? We set up they say they want to do something, and we've got a whole, plan on how to make that happen for you.
Right.
Yeah.
The other thing that is kind of interesting note, just in terms of treatment today and what we know about effective treatment in the United States today, is, treatment is just the first step in a healing process. Like, when you leave treatment, whatever level of care, however age you are, whatever your experience, like, that's just the beginning. Some people might perceive that, it's like, oh, that's not what I expected. Wait a minute, this is a professional treatment program. You guys, they should be well healed by the time they come home. We shouldn't have these issues, right? Yeah. Only to kind of realize, like, oh no, wait, this is asking me to dive deep. When they come home, I'll tell you a brief story, because I don't know if you know this, I'm a marriage family therapist by training.
Oh.
And one of the things I really loved when I was in practice and through school was learning, because we're systems thinkers. That's how we're trained, is to think systemically. And we always were taught that families are like a thermostat. And when a member of the family leaves, right, that changes the temperature of this family system.
Oh, yeah.
And they're in treatment, and they're in a healthy place and what have you, and everybody's the temperature kind of decreases a little bit. But the second that person comes back into the normal day-to-day, that temperature, and it's not anybody's intentional, but because we're homeostatic, right, we like those baselines, we will very naturally go back to 78 degrees, what it was before. The example for somebody to reflect on is this. If you happen to go home, let's say you're a college student or whatever age you are, and you go home and you visit your family on Thanksgiving or the holidays of any kind, and you start to notice that you're acting differently. And you start to notice that you're sort of receding back into how you acted when you were 14.
Mm-hmm.
And your mom starts to act this way, and your dad and everybody. That's homeostasis. That's getting drugged back into those old roles, those old rules of your family system. And you could have all the greatest intentions, but I always tell folks, even when you're not experiencing addiction, just be aware of that. And I remember reflecting, like, I'm an adult, like I've got a couple years of recovery, like I'm doing work, and when I go back home, I am 16 again. Mm-hmm. And I act out emotionally in those very same ways. And I can imagine families without the language, without the community, that would be a really scary place to be without that information, without that guidance, on what should we do next, and how can we be able to sort of grow together? Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
No, absolutely. Absolutely. And again, it's back to our child will continue to work a program the rest of their lives. Yeah. And we will need to do the same. Do we have to go every week or every day? Right. Or no, but we have to continue to do our work, or we will relapse back into our old behaviors.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's interesting you mentioned that. John was just home for a visit a few weeks ago. And I think, I'm not saying that I've got this covered.
I appreciate that.
But what I was prepared that he was home, and I had no expectations of the amount of time that he would spend with us. It was just like, if you're just going to come and lay your head on the pillow and I see you walk in and out, that's awesome. Yeah. I get to see you. I got to spend more time with him than I even thought I was going to.
Yeah.
But I knew that he had other priorities and other things he wanted to do, and I had absolutely no expectation of him being there and making me feel great and appreciated. Because that's me. That's my work. That's not his work.
You're also reminding me of my own parents. In a good way. One of the things that they too have their own program and have continued in that over 15 years. Mm-hmm. And one of the things they talk about often, if given the opportunity, is that they had to develop their own life.
Yeah.
And how worried they were that they had to let go. They had to surrender.
Yes.
And that their life wasn't their kid's life. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Their life wasn't their loved one's life. And how much of a struggle that was, and still probably can be, just like it's a struggle for somebody in recovery, as in any shape or form. But, if you experience addiction yourself, like, there are good moments and there are hard moments, mm-hmm. And are we going to choose to use the resources that we've been taught to use to negotiate and move through life? Because like your son, 17 years old, getting clean and sober, like, a lot of life is going to show up for him.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Post getting clean and sober.
Yep.
Losing a job, failing in a relationship, not doing well in school, whatever those things are. And that's the work of recovery, mm-hmm. really.
Yes.
Going to treatment is very scary and very hard. I'm not trying to take anything away from that. But mm-hmm. gosh, living in a state of surrender and working to develop a relationship with a higher power through community mm-hmm. is just a lifelong process.
It is. And speaking of surrender, I didn't surrender on the day he came home.
Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah. When it was, I remember the day. It was, I think he was about a month shy of his 2 years of sobriety.
Yeah.
And I was still trying to control. And luckily I had my tribe of moms that instead of going and trying to impact John and influence him, I reached out to them and like, this is driving me nuts. And talking it through it with them, it's again, I felt a trigger. And instead of taking that trigger out on my son, who 9 times out of 10 didn't have anything to do with him in the first place, right? And talking that through with them, and then, get it out of my system and moving on. But finally, I was just like, why do I keep doing this? And I just was sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Yeah.
And I was done.
Yeah.
And I just slowly over a few months or a few months after that, it was just like, I've got my tools. I know what I need to do. And I've just got to keep making that next right decision for me and quit allowing those triggers to impact anyone else but me, because doesn't have anything to do with anybody else.
Yeah.
It's all about what's in here.
Yeah.
So it's not, I don't talk this talk like I got it right, because I sure don't. It's a lifetime journey.
Yeah.
And so I just have to keep doing that.
Well, I'm so thankful that you came. I'm grateful that you were willing to share your story and to be present with us and be authentic. And I think we should think about maybe seeing if we can get other families on here, maybe like a family podcast itself, like, you know what I mean? And maybe even me stepping out of the middle and just letting you guys talk about your shared experience. But I just want to, again, thank you so much. Like, I really do mean that, Marti. Like, it's so important for folks to have access. Mm-hmm. It's take it or leave it. Here's the Zoom link, here's the phone number, here's the meeting space. But you have created a unique atmosphere of recovery for parents. And we're just so, we're in debt to you for making that happen, And it just excited kind of where this goes next. So if you're interested in learning more about Marti or her coaching services, we're going to link all of that in the video when we post this. This is on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube, actually, and on our website. You can find all that. And just as always, link, comment, like, subscribe, do all those things. It really makes an impact, not for our organizations necessarily, but for parents that are looking for resources or trying to learn about what treatment is really like. That's why we're here. So thanks for watching.